So, what if you could legally marry a second person without ever divorcing your first? It sounds wild, right? Well, today we're diving into a really fascinating legal case from India that hinged on that exact question. A case that basically put a massive potential loophole in marriage law to the test.
I mean, just think about it for a second. You're already married, but you want to marry someone else, and you'd rather skip the whole messy, complicated divorce process. Could simply changing your religion be the secret key to unlock that door? It sounds like something straight out of a movie, but believe it or not, this exact scenario ended up in front of India's Supreme Court.
So here's the loophole that was at the center of this whole debate. The argument was actually pretty simple. If a certain religion allows a man to have more than one wife, could he just convert to that faith and then legally marry again, all while his first marriage, which was governed by a totally different law, was still technically active? You can see it, right? A total clash of legal systems.
Okay, to really get why this was such a huge deal, we first need to talk about the foundational law on bigamy. What does the law of the land actually say about being married to more than one person at the very same time?
The legal term right at the heart of this entire thing is bigamy, and is defined pretty straightforwardly. It's the act of marrying someone while you are still legally married to somebody else. Simple concept, but it comes with some pretty serious legal consequences. And this isn't just, a social no-no or some kind of civil issue. The Indian Penal Code is absolutely crystal clear on this. Section 494 makes bigamy a criminal offense. And that's a big distinction. It means it's not just a private issue between spouses, it's considered a crime against the state itself.
So, you're probably thinking, if the law is that clear, then where's the loophole? Where's the wiggle room? Well, that's exactly what the Supreme Court of India had to figure out in a landmark case that put this whole question to the ultimate test.
And the case that would settle this once and for all was Lily Thomas versus the Union of India. This thing became a massive legal and ethical battleground, and you can bet the whole nation was watching to see how the court would rule on such a sensitive and frankly important issue.
And this right here really breaks down the core conflict. On one side of the scale, you have a person's fundamental right to choose and practice their religion, but on the other side, you've got this legal duty under criminal law. You have to dissolve one marriage before you can start another. So the court had to ask, can someone use their religious freedom to get around marital law?
So, after carefully weighing these two incredibly powerful principles, the Supreme Court finally reached its decision. And it was a verdict that would end up reshaping marital law in India for years and years to come.
And wow, the judgment was just unequivocal. The court was not messing around. The absolute key takeaway is that a second marriage, even if it happens after you convert, is totally void. It means nothing if that first marriage hasn't been legally dissolved. Changing your religion doesn't just magically wipe away your previous legal commitments.
But the court didn't even stop there. Oh no. It laid out the consequences in no uncertain terms. First, that second marriage, it's legally void. It has zero standing in the eyes of the law. Second, the act itself is still bigamy, plain and simple. And third, because it's bigamy, it's punishable under Section 494 of the Indian Penal Code.
Okay, so the court made its decision. But why is this ruling so incredibly important, even all these years later? What is its lasting legacy?
Well, for starters, this landmark ruling was handed down in the year 2000. So we're not talking about some ancient history here. This is a modern precedent that continues to define marital law and that tricky balance between personal faith and criminal law in India today.
But the real legacy, the most important legacy of this case, was just how definitive it was. It basically slammed the door shut on this legal loophole for good. The Supreme Court made it absolutely clear that you cannot use religious freedom as a tool to commit a crime or to just duck out of the legal obligations of a marriage you're already in. So if you boil it all down, there are three huge takeaways from this powerful decision. First, it protected the rights of the first spouse, who could otherwise just be abandoned with no legal way to fight back. Second, it drew a really firm line in the sand. Personal religious law cannot be used to get around the country's criminal law. And finally, it upheld the integrity of marriage itself, making sure it's governed by a clear, consistent legal standard.
And all of this leaves us with a really profound question, one that societies all over the world are still grappling with. How exactly should the law balance a person's faith with their legal duties to each other and to the society they live in? In this one case, the court's answer was crystal clear. But you can be sure the broader debate is far from over. Thanks for joining me.